This is True Voice Unfiltered, the podcast where raw truth meets real transformation. I'm your host, Daria Anne, ghostwriter, content strategist, and holistic health warrior. No, I'm not a doctor, nurse, nutritionist, or any kind of medical professional, and this show does not dispense medical advice. I'm just an informed patient sharing what I've learned on my own healing journey. I also interview accomplished authors, speakers, entrepreneurs, and functional medicine practitioners who are transforming lives. If you're ready to break free from the sick care system, reclaim your health, and transform your life, you're in the right place. Let's get unfiltered. Hi, everyone. Welcome to True Voice Unfiltered, the podcast where raw truth meets real transformation. This is episode 27. Wow, can't believe that. I got a little bit off track this past 6 weeks, as you all know, from my past episode on pet loss grief. But I am back now and ready to welcome another guest in the holistic, functional medicine, alternative medicine space, whatever we want to call it. Her name is Jodi Scott, and she is the co-founder and CEO of Green Goo, Plants with Purpose. I'm going to read a little bit about Jodi here, and then I'm going to bring her into the studio, and we're going to talk about her background, her True Voice story, and this fabulous product line, because there are so many amazing products. I've been poking around on her website all day, and I'm really excited to talk to Jodi more about these. So Jodi Scott is the co-founder and CEO of Green Goo, Plants with Purpose. And in her own words, Jodi says, I was pre-med with an MS in health psychology, in addition to working in private practice to assist disadvantaged patients in seeking medical and therapeutic care. I also trained resident physicians to bridge body, mind, and medicine as a tool for healthier lives. During this time, I started and operated several small businesses, which I lovingly refer to as hobbies gone wild. Meanwhile, my sister was in California learning to make medicine from plants, and I witnessed firsthand the effects these products had in changing people's lives. These experiences were literally life-changing for me as well. I saw the potential to change first aid and make it affordable for those in need, so I turned to my favorite girls on the planet, my mom and sister, and said, let's do this. So let's do this, everyone. Let's go talk to Jodi Scott, co-founder and CEO of Green Goo, Plants with Purpose. Jodi, welcome to True Voice Unfiltered, and thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here with you.
So I am so thrilled. I mean, I think it's the coolest thing that you're in business with your mom and your sister. I mean, there's so many great things about you, but I just think I love that whole idea of being in business with your family. So what's like, and how did you guys I read your bio, but I'm just curious. I want to hear from you in your own words, how you all kind of came together to start Green Goo.
It's been, I think, the world just designing us to be ready for this moment. So we grew up in the military and we moved around a lot, and we learned very quickly that we were each other's best friends. And we went through difficult times together, and we learned how to navigate that. And then my mom had to redefine her career because reinventing it every 3 months to 3 years was really tough. So she was an early adopter to self-taught computer programming, website development,
Wow.
graphic design. Yeah. It's always great to have an IT person in your group. That's not me. And
Me either.
nope. And both my sister and I were in the medical field. So I got my master's in health psychology, specialized in psychoneuroimmunology, and was training resident physicians on the biopsychosocial model. What that means in practice is I cared passionately about changing the medical field, and I really wanted to do more than just prescribe because I saw the value in getting more data points from your patient to be able to really take that healing journey further. And then my sister was an herbalist, or is an herbalist, and a midwife, and she was studying to go to herb school at the time. And so the three of us kind of had this like beautiful trifecta together, with my sister's Eastern traditional herbology and then me with my Western medicine and organic chemistry. And so the sort of aha moment was I was pregnant and I had a cut, and I went to my go-to first aid cabinet and I started reading the ingredients, and I was like, I don't think I want to put this on while I'm pregnant. And then I was like, I don't think I want to put this on my daughter. And my sister
Yeah.
was making medicinal salves at the time. And I was like, why do we think that this is the only way? Why does if it doesn't burn or sting or dry your skin out, it must not be first aid. It must not be working. And we
Crazy.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, "And we're living this really clean life. Why are we making this exception?" And I found that the natural consumer was willing to abandon their natural ethos because we were all told that this is the only way to get the job done for first aid. And then I found it even more interesting that chronic skin conditions are at an all-time high, and the conventional consumer is like, "I'm not worried about the ingredients. I want something that works better because used for 7 to 10 days, and then it's really inconvenient to have to go to your doctor, and typically symptoms do persist." So the 3 of us had this idea. We're like, "What if we can make plant-based first aid that is superior in efficacy and, oh, by the way, clean ingredients and sustainability?" And the 3 of us just had the right recipe for being able to make it all come together.
That's amazing. And I do think, and let me know, I want to get your input on this. I do think people are hopefully starting to come around to the importance of more holistic solutions and really looking at labels. I'm even food, right? That's the big topic in the news now. And I'm glad, as someone who's been, focused on whole foods since, gosh, since the 90s. Do you find that more people are kind of looking for that now? Or is the tide sort of turning a little bit?
It is. So when we started
Good.
Green Goo, it was almost 15 years ago. And the
Wow.
term plant-based was not a term that anyone used. And Whole Foods, to your point, it's just kind of like the one percenters went to Whole Foods and there wasn't
Yeah.
natural food available for everyone. And I'll never forget going to a national pharmacy meeting and I was like, "I've got plant-based first aid." And he's like, "Those 2 words do not go in the same sentence." And I mean, he just about fell out of the seat. And I'm like, "Why don't you go home and try this? And you can see that the proof is in it." And I do think that a lot of the doubters, and it's totally fair, that the natural ingredients that have been available were always kind of a compromise. Like they didn't work as well, but we would do them, use these because it was our mission. Like we wanted to have cleaner ingredients. And a lot of what people have been getting is not like the plant in its pure form. And oftentimes when plants are being processed, they're being exposed to high heat, they're exposed to chemicals that change the integrity, the medicinal profile of the plant, or they're even combined with a paraben or a petroleum base. And so it just
Mm.
sits on the surface of your skin and you don't even absorb the medicinal properties. And what I love about Green Goo is we are still making it the same way we did in our kitchen when we were growing the herbs in our backyard, drying them on old screen doors, and then infusing them and really taking out the richness of these plants and not compromising the integrity of the plant. So now we bring those raw plants to our manufacturing facility and we do the same thing. And that's why you get such a medicinal profile. And so I think to your point, we've had about 15 years now to prove that plant-based really works. And I think really post-pandemic, that term
Mm.
started to become a phrase that people understood. And we have more availability to know like forever chemicals, phthalates, the number one produced man-made chemical in the world is an endocrine disruptor. And so I think it's really great to be a part of that today where it's less about trying to defend plant-based and really just invite the solution that it's here, that Green Good's available.
And that's exciting. And I was poking around your website most of the day, and you guys have so many different products, which I definitely want to get into as we move through this interview. But I want to talk to you about something you mentioned earlier, Jody. And you talk about healing as subtraction instead of adding more protocols. And I think this is really interesting because I feel like people get overwhelmed. It's great. Like I love the internet. I mean, here we are now, right, doing this interview, and there are a lot of wonderful people like you, right, putting out great products. But I think a lot of things get lost in the noise, or people might get overwhelmed. So I want to ask you about like healing as subtraction instead of constantly asking people to do more and more. Like, what does that really mean? And how can women, especially, begin simplifying their health without feeling like they're doing less?
Thank you. I think that is such a great entry point for a wellness journey, which is you're being inundated with all of these ingredients, all of these things that you should be doing. And oftentimes it's so overwhelming, you can't put a foot forward. You just have paralysis. And what I have found is by avoiding or subtracting certain things, you actually start to feel your body shift. And then all of a sudden, you can start inviting more things. And it's as simple as avoiding the parabens and the petroleum and the phthalates, checking your cookware to make sure that you're not inviting some of the nonstick that may be an issue, and just some of those little things that you can start to eliminate. And I also feel like as women, having permission to just avoid is really inviting because we are a part of the culture. We're supposed to wear a lot of hats. We're supposed to do everything. We should say yes to everything. And when you avoid ingredients, avoid situations, avoid, if you decide to have that second cocktail, when you start thinking in that mindset of like, I'm just going to avoid, it starts to compound. And then all of a sudden you have preserved more energy. You feel more empowered and your body is not working as hard as it could be. And I often like to share with people like your skin is the largest organ. It is the first line of defense, and it is signaling all day long, like, "Alarm, alarm, alarm." And so when you
Yeah.
just avoid some things, all of a sudden that nervous system starts to calm down because your skin is calming down, your inflammation calms down, and then you're kind of in a more present state, and you can start thinking about more ways to invite wellness into your, um
Yeah, no, it's so important. And years ago, I'm not going to say the name of the company, but this was back in 2002. I was with a network marketing company. I hate to even admit that now, but the products were really good as far as I know back then. But they talked about mineral oil, and that was like the bad thing. And that was like one of the big things to look out for. But you're right. I mean, there are so many fake estrogens in products, these endocrine disruptors that are so bad for us. And I'm glad that at least I got on that track, several years ago now, and have always kind of looked out for that. But when you talked earlier about like processing, how products are processed. Can you let people know like what they should look for? Like, is it what do they call it? Like good manufacturing processes, like for supplements? Is there something similar
Yeah.
in the plant based products that you
So I
produce?
love that you bring
Yeah.
up GMP, so the good manufacturing processing. And yes, so for us, we're one of the few plant-based solutions that are registered with the FDA. And what's nice about that is you have to have a certain amount of potency and you have to speak to the herbs in the way that the FDA recognizes them. And it allows an extra layer of transparency and confidence that you're getting the medicinal load that you're looking for. Oftentimes, if something has a calendula extract in it, for example, and it isn't in the OTC monograph, it's fair to assume that you may not be getting a lot of those medicinal properties. And there's a lot of synthetics that are out on the market that are fragrances, also endocrine disruptors. You're not really getting the flower, the medicinal parts of the flower. It's just a synthetic compound that's been made to give that scent or give that color. And so you really want to look for the pure plants. And the good news is they have to disclose more now on the labels. Now, I'll tell you, in the OTC space, there's a lot of ingredients that are inactive that aren't on the label. You'll find at Green Goo that we not only include the active, but the inactive because everything's so clean. We want you to see the inactive ingredients. They just haven't been moved up to having active properties as the FDA recognizes it. Now, my sister being the herbalist would say, okay, no, lavender and rosemary, and some of these other herbs obviously have some medicinal profiles. They're just not there yet in the research that's available for the FDA.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'm just glad we're having this conversation because it's just, talking about skin, right? I mean, people don't realize it, that it is an organ and that what we put on our skin gets into our system. And now you say that the skin is deeply connected to the nervous system. So let's talk a little bit about stress, trauma, and emotional overload. How does that show up on the skin? And what can that teach us about listening to our bodies?
So the skin, I think we've just kind of downplayed its role in our wellness and in every day. And it is rich in neurotransmitters. It is born from the same embryonic tissue that our nervous system is. And so what's very interesting is when you think about if you are stressed and you're go, 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 or you're putting chemicals on your body. It's penetrating the skin layer, and then it's stimulating a response in your nervous system. You could be increasing cortisol with that stress. You could be signaling to the immune system to have inflammation. And think about, like, when you're flared up and you're feeling that pain, you just don't feel good. It messes with your clarity, your happiness. Of course, it's like serotonin and sleep. And of course, we're also seeing chronic skin conditions at an all-time high. And some people argue that some epigenetics now because of the things that we have been exposed to and the stress that continues. And what's been really interesting is taking some of that psychoneuroimmunology that now has science-backed data to support. I mean, it's so cool. The Department of Behavioral Medicine is partnering with the Department of Dermatology, and they're doing clinical trials, and they're proving things as simple as mindfulness can help lower that immune response, lower that cortisol, reduce inflammation, and they'll actually see visible signs of things like eczema and psoriasis starting to clear up. So when you think of that whole system working together, it gives you that much more empowerment to say, okay, I really want to avoid those synthetics, those endocrine disruptors. But also, let's, like, have nutritive skincare. Let's feed our skin. So I do this thing called Sanctuary Sunday, where I'll take our Green Goo and I'll just salve up, butter up from head to toe, put my bathrobe on, 30, 45 minutes, let my skin just drink up all those nutrients and have a really intentional moment. Whether it's reading a book, sitting outside, having a nice phone call or visit with someone. And then your skin just, like, is hydrated and nourished, and we are water, so it's good to be thinking
Yeah.
about hydration, and then go about your day, and you just feel different. And so there is a deep connection between trauma and stress that we are seeing showing up in our skin. And then in addition to that, we're breaking down our skin barrier and our microbiome with all of these, cleansers that are stripping our skin and abrasive. And so when you start thinking of your skin as this, like, living, breathable organ, and then you wanna give it the things that it helps optimize its performance and modulates and stimulates your body, and then you're also not stressing it out with the other things. I mean, it's kind of fun to educate my daughter. I'm like, "Hey, do you know that actually not scrolling on your phone and going outside is going to have a positive impact on your skin? Because your skin is actually experiencing that stress with you."
Yeah, that's amazing. I think I'm a Hashimoto's patient. I mean, I wrote a book about finding functional medicine and getting on the other side of it. And now that I think about it, when I did have inflammation, I was getting the skin breakouts. Listening to you now, I kind of can see better how this is all connected because I've worked really hard on getting inflammation down. It has come way down over the past, I would say, 6 years. I think 6 years ago, I had that HSCRP, that test, that high resolution C reactive protein. And I'm telling you, it was high, like it was almost at 8, like several years ago. And now I've got it down. I'm trying to get it below 1. But
Yeah.
listening to you, I'm really kind of starting to make the connections with that too in terms of the skin because I used to get really bad skin eruptions before my T3 levels became optimal, and I went through all of that. So this is so interesting to me.
It's
Yeah.
really empowering, and I think too, I had a customer who was Jane Doe number 1, and she was the first person pulled from the World Trade Center, sustained horrible
Oh,
injuries, and then became addicted to opioids. And she reached out and she was like, "Your pain relief product is the only solution that is helping me through my opioid withdrawal." And she said she would just salve up from head to toe as she was bringing her doses down, calm her body and calm the inflammation and get her in the mindset that she could do this. And it was great to have that interaction with her and help her, but it also really helped me open up my perspective. And I didn't even realize I was doing this and how it was benefiting my body, but I was traveling 3 weeks out of the month, going to all of these retailer meetings, and I would find that, like, I was just really achy, like, traveling was hard on me, you're not hydrated, you're stressed. So I started putting the pain relief on every night before I would travel from head to toe. And what I found is when I was staying ahead of the inflammation, I somehow weathered the travel better. I felt better. And so I just made that unconscious connection. And then after meeting Jane Doe number 1 and then being like, "Oh my goodness, inflammation is not just like, oh, I'm sore today, I should address this one spot on my knee." looking at it from a let's stay ahead of it and really nurture our body to avoid that inflammation allows our body to really perform at a more optimal rate.
And we're talking, let's explain the difference because there's chronic inflammation, right? That's really bad. And then there's like inflammation, like if you fall down and get cut, your body will respond with inflammation, but that's temporary. Can you talk a little bit about that, the difference between the two, between acute and chronic?
Right. And acute is very much it could be an injury to your
Mm.
point. It's a moment in time. And what's great is I you can take plants and you can use things like arnica and St.
I love
John's
arnica.
wort. It's so
Yeah.
good. And work with other plants to help increase oxygen to the wound site and help that heal. And then of course there's chronic inflammation, which is the persistent and can result from a number of medical conditions. And
Yeah.
yet you can still curve it by doing things like that arnica high concentration from head to toe through your skin. And a lot of times we just think managing inflammation is going to be something we ingest, whether it's a vitamin of some sort or a medical, like a medication of. And yet, what's so fun, think about like when you go to a massage and you're just like, you come back and you're like, that was so good. Like your inflammation has been released. You can do the same thing with a topical salve that's medicinal in that way. And I'll share, like I started cold plunging and it's kind of like that same thing where you just kickstart your system to reduce that inflammatory reaction. And cold plunging is amazing for inflammation. If there's people out there that haven't tried it and they're suffering from inflammation, give it a whirl and see if it benefits you because there's many times where I'm like, I'm just achy. Okay, I cold plunge and I'm like, wow, that was
So Jody, can you cold plunge in the shower? Because I do that
yes,
sometimes. I'll make the water. It does. I get it as cold as it can, and I'll just stand under it like for a minute. I think is about all I can do. But it definitely
absolutely.
does help, though.
Yes, it
Yeah.
stimulates. It gives that like
Mhm.
stimulation where the cortisol drops and then that
Yeah.
inflammation drops. And when you can find more of those moments, even deep breathing will do that. Mindful moments like that connection I was sharing with you. And I really like to encourage too, like oftentimes we think if we don't meditate for 2 hours a day, then we must not get the benefit, so we're just not gonna do it, and it can be, again, so overwhelming. But the science supports that if you just have mindful moments for 30 seconds to 2 minutes per day, and you do that frequently throughout the day, same thing, cortisol drops, inflammation drops, and so finding those micro minutes throughout the day will start to compound, and you'll feel the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I know even something as simple as like I have a dog. So getting away from my computer several times throughout the day, just taking the dog, getting outside, getting some vitamin D, which reminds me of another question because that is another hot topic now in sort of the holistic, I want to say functional medicine world. There's a lot of doctors out there that are like promoting vitamin D and getting out in the sun. How do you feel about sunscreen and vitamin D and how much time should somebody spend in the sun if they do it without sunscreen?
I mean, I am definitely a proponent of getting vitamin D. And obviously, we were not meant to be overexposed in the sun. So, how much vitamin D each person needs, I think obviously varies from diet and skin type and so forth. But with the idea that the sun is medicine and it can have a positive impact on your well being. From a sunscreen standpoint, it was interesting. So, when we developed our sunscreen, every time we're developing a formula, it has to be as good or better than what is conventional on the market. And sunscreen was a tough one because we have been trained to think that we can just go out in the sun for 12 hours and just put on sunscreen. And it was so interesting
Yeah.
being pre-med and taking my organic chemistry class and we were breaking the oxybenzone ring down and I raised my hand and I was like, "Isn't this a known carcinogen?" And the professor was like, "Yep." And I'm like, how are we endorsing a known carcinogen in these skincare products when we're saying that you should be using this to avoid skin cancer? And he's like, well, this is the only real thing that we know today that allows the skin to be out in the sun for long periods of time. I had to really reframe in terms of creating our sunscreen, which is, you know what, guys? We're not creating a sunscreen that is intended for you to be outside for a long duration. The idea is that you can protect your skin, nourish it, hydrate it. So there's a number of herbs in there that have natural SPF in them, along with the zinc oxide. But after a few hours, cover up. Go in the
Yeah.
shade, give your skin a break because at that point, it's no longer an antioxidant. It's now damaging the cells.
Yeah, it's that classic, like, too much of a good thing. I mean, even water, I mean, you can possibly drink too much water, right? We
Yep.
hear about drinking that, but there's the other side of it where, I forget the term for it, you probably know it. There's a term for it where it actually becomes you're almost drowning your system if
Yep.
you drink too much. So I think it's kind of the same with the sun, it's like too much of a good thing.
You're
Learning.
aware when you're present with your body, you can be very in tune with, okay, this is enough. It's time for me to take a break. Same thing with water and any good thing. Balance is a pretty wonderful way to live.
Absolutely. And Jody, thinking of my mom, I have to ask this question too. So, how do your products work like for someone that's dealing with arthritis? Like she gets very inflammatory, her thumbs get really inflamed.
That would be our pain
That's
relief product. So it's just really, really rich in the arnica plant. And
okay.
because we're making that infusion ourselves, we can get high concentrations of that plant, protect the integrity of the plant. And then we also have things like ginger in it and different herbs that help increase oxygen to the wound site. Because a lot of times, what we see on the market is just to give you that hot cold sensation to kind of numb it. And what
Yeah.
we're trying to do is we're trying to stimulate the body's healing process. And a lot of times it's just bringing more oxygen and blood flow to the area. And you want to use things like consistently and regularly. And so that would be my recommendation would be the pain relief
Awesome.
product.
I'm excited. I'm going to get that for her because she has been through so many creams. And, there's always somebody on TV, promoting something, some famous actor or whatever, and she's tried so many products. And probably for that reason, they're more just like temporary relief. But I've never been able to find something long term. So I am very excited because
Good.
I am going to start her on that. So I want to talk about, you built Green Goo on a family farm from mason jars, and it was a nationally distributed brand. And then you chose to buy it back. I thought that was very interesting when I was reading your bio today. So, what did that teach you? I mean, I'm sure there were some hard lessons in there, but about things like identity, self trust, and redefining success.
Yeah, we grew so fast and we were just always in a state of fight or flight. And the shift for us was during the pandemic because we were in retail. That's if you had poison ivy, you went to your local pharmacy. And all of a sudden, no one's in retail anymore. And so we had to pivot very quickly to an online business when the whole world was trying to do that and find packaging.
Yeah.
And we were shipping till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And we
Oh my
realized
gosh.
it was nuts. And I was so afraid I was going to have to terminate my team. And so we made it through, thankfully, and when we got to the other side, I recognized that we needed to insulate risk. We were a bootstrap family business, and we were not going to be able to weather another pandemic or another crisis, and that we needed to seek financial support. And unfortunately, when we did, the partners that we decided to join with faced legal and financial issues. We ultimately ended up having less than 24 hours to terminate our entire team. The one thing that we were
Gosh.
hoping to avoid, including my mom and sister, including my husband and,
Oh
and
my
brother-in-law.
gosh.
It was terrible. And, we're sitting there in a state of paralysis and devastated. And all of a sudden, I, like, pull out my lip balm and I realize I only have so much lip balm left, and because 'cause we're not in production, and I my mom and sister and I were, like, calibrating each other's inventory, and my sister's like, "Are we gonna have to start making this in our kitchen again? Because we can't live without these products." And then at the same time, we're getting inundated with emails from customers who are like, "When are you gonna be back in production? My son is a paraplegic. This is the only thing that works." My mom is a diabetic. This is the only thing that works. My child has eczema, only thing that works. And we're like, oh my gosh, we have to buy the company back. But what it taught me was that, I had spent so much time thinking that like resilience and my identity was so wrapped up in my purpose and and it was always do the next thing, get the next thing done. And I think it's very much that like mom woman mentality. Like you're just gonna go and get it all done. And I wasn't taking the time to really be present. And I think that now having my purpose, my plants, my present stripped from me, right? Because all I'm doing is worrying about the future and how we're going to pay our bills and thinking about the past and shoulda, woulda, coulda. And when you're in that state of mind, you just miss all the opportunities around you and you really deplete your system because all of that stuff is hard on your body. And then it's like your mind is racing, but your body's exhausted. Your adrenal glands are just done for. And so I really became empowered to presence and being rather than doing. And in that, I created for myself a much more expansive way of looking at the world. And I was able to pick myself up after a very difficult time and find a way through it. And those are tools that I'm gonna be able to use for the rest of my life. And I feel very passionate about empowering others to find those tools so that they can enjoy life a little bit more and find the gift and opportunities and the challenges that they're facing. And it's impacted me as a leader, as a partner, as a mother, and I'm very grateful for that. And it took us 18 months to get the company back, but we did.
Hey, I'm so glad. So
Yeah.
it's all family owned again.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, that's amazing because, I just there are so many products that I used to use that used to be privately owned. And I don't want to criticize anyone for selling out, but it seems to me the first second it's bought out by a corporation or some large entity, the first thing they do is change out the formulas, like if it's
Yep.
supplements, use cheaper products. One of my favorite podcast hosts, he has a vitamin company and he says, I'm never selling out. I mean, I'm going to own this till I die because I know what'll happen the second I sell it to somebody. And it's just a shame because everything becomes about profit and then they no longer care about quality. And I've even been in stores like Sprouts where you think everything they sell is just the best quality. And one day I was in there and I was looking at, sorry Sprouts, I love you, but I even noticed this in Whole Foods the other day. I was looking at some of their takeout items like salmon and vegetable or whatever, and I'm looking at the label and I'm like, seeing stuff in there that I don't wanna put in my body, and I like, well, I guess I'm gonna just keep cooking from scratch then. But you do have to be so careful in this world, and I'm just so grateful that you were able to get your company back because people and it's amazing that people were reaching out to you. I mean, my gosh, the woman whose son was a paraplegic was getting results. I mean, that's gotta be gratifying too, to hear that. So,
It
I'm just glad.
it gives me
But
so much more gratitude now to
oh,
be in this seat than I ever had before, because to lose it and then to have it back, and then to your point, to protect the process, um, things are more expensive now to make, and we had a choice to compromise the process or change the business model. And what we did is we changed the business model where we're like, "Okay, maybe we're gonna be in less stores so that we can protect the process and make sure people are getting the integrity behind it." And like, oh, it's just a couple weeks ago, and a parent reached out and her daughter had severe eczema, and I get to say had, and she's suffering for a year, prescription steroids and over-the-counter
of course.
solutions, can't sleep. Like, if you have eczema, at night, like, the noise goes away and all you can feel is the itching and your clothing is no fun. And she's like, "I'm coming to you at a last ditch effort. I don't use natural products. I don't believe in them, but I heard through the grapevine, so I'm here desperately trying." And so she sent us some pictures. We put together a regiment for her, and she's like, week 2, she sends the picture 14 days into it, and she's like, "We are now just using the skin repair, which is for scarring." She's like, "I haven't seen my daughter smile in so long, and we're
Oh,
sleeping." And I'm like, "And that's why we kept fighting
yeah.
for the good fight. This makes it all worth it."
Yeah, and you can't put a price tag on that. I mean, that's just
Oh,
priceless to hear that from somebody. I mean, and to know that
absolutely.
you're having this effect on people, that's pretty amazing.
It's a
So,
gift.
yeah. Now, I know that, again, I was talking about online noise earlier, and I know that a lot of women, especially, just get overwhelmed with, like, this is toxic and that's toxic, and don't do this and do this. And I know I myself, too, sometimes because I listen to so many different podcasts and sometimes I hear conflicting information. Like, what do you recommend for somebody to start? Let's just say somebody really wants to start living cleaner, but they might feel overwhelmed. And like you were saying earlier, to the point of like paralysis because you don't know what to do. What do you recommend? I mean, what are some ways that somebody can start getting rid of toxins and start living a cleaner life?
So we use an acronym in our home called SHAMAN, and it's just a really nice North Star. And I find that you can jump on the shaman wagon at any point and and go deeper with it. And so what it means is S is sleep, add to the sleep bank, and just being very mindful of that. We can push ourselves to a certain degree, but sleep is really important for our body to reset. Sometimes it might be taking that 15-minute nap in the middle of the day. That's okay. And that's really important for my teenager when I remind her when she's like, I can't understand why I'm so moody. How's your sleep bank?
Yeah.
H is hydration, and we are made of water. And it's really important to not only be drinking water, but not drinking things that are going to pull water out, not using skincare products that are going to pull water out, things that are petroleum, paraben based, and nutritional food that has water, carrots, vegetables, fruit. There are plenty. There's fiber foods that provide hydration for our body in a really nutritional way. And then A is antioxidants. And that's just like a fun reminder when you're being inundated with like Grubhub and,
Yeah.
commercials for food and what do I
Yes.
buy
Oh
at
my
the grocery
gosh.
store? Or you open up your fridge and you're like, I'm hungry. When you think about antioxidants, then you're like, oh, you know what? I think I'm going to pick that instead of that. Or if it's going to be an and, you're at least considering bringing some of the antioxidants into the fold. And when you bring just a little bit of nutrition in, again, you start to feel the difference and then you want more. And so it just gives you that like quick North Star there. And then M is mindfulness. And this goes back to that like 30 seconds to 2 minutes. Feel your feet on the ground. When you wake up, watch the horizon. Uh, Take a few minutes to go look at the clouds, listen to the birds, go outside and walk your dog. Those are mindful moments. When you're in the shower, don't rush, feel the water, and you don't have to. Some people think like mindful moments, you somehow have to invest more time into it. It's really just a reframe to what you're actually doing. It can be as simple as picking your hand up on the cup and feeling that, just like being really present with it. And there is a physiological change that happens and that compounds over time. And then the last A is avoid. And avoid, I think, is really powerful, which we were talking about earlier in terms of subtracting. And it is avoid the parabens, the petroleums, the phthalates, the forever chemicals, but just start avoiding things. You don't have to avoid all of them at one time. Pick something in that day that you're just going to avoid, and then the next day you can pick something that you're going to avoid, and it could be people, and it could be experiences, because when you start to preserve your energy and protect your energy, again, it becomes more expansive because then you're, like, rejuvenating yourself. And then the N is nature, because nature just has a wonderful way of giving you a reset. And this has been really great for my daughter because she'll be like, do I scroll on my phone for 10 minutes? Or maybe I go outside or I open up my window and I just like feel the air coming in. And again, it's just those little micro moments that compound that start to bring your body to presence and to like a less fight or flight state that you can start leaning in more on.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. And I love that shaman. I love that. Is that on your website somewhere, Jody? I need to share
Not
that
yet.
with people.
Nope, I
Okay.
need
It's gonna
to.
be
Yes.
I may have to put that in
Yeah.
the show description because I absolutely
Please.
love that for
Thank
everyone.
you.
And I agree. I mean, I do many of those things. One of them is I'm out at sunrise every morning and I don't like to be barefoot. I'm just one of those people, but I'll hold a leaf in my hands for grounding, and just really, and even when I'll leave my phone in the house when I take the dog for a walk and just really you're right, just really try to be present, just notice what's around you, notice the palm trees. I live in Florida, so, like, notice the palm trees or notice we have different plants that grow at different times of the year, different flowers, like, I think it's just being more aware because we've been used to this sort of, I'll call it a shower power culture, like, shower quick, keep going, and in terms of sleep, like, I think "I'll sleep when I'm dead" has been sort of this motto of our culture for so long. I think it's I think more people are making the shift, but I do think that we have to undo a lot of that cultural programming that, like, if you're not doing and going all the time, like, then you're not useful. So, I'm
And the
glad to hear you
science
say that.
really supports and we used to just to your point, that is what we have been told and how to live. And the science supports that you are only showing up, let's say, a third of your performance. And when you
Yeah.
actually make these shifts, all of a sudden you are actually doing more, you're producing more results, and you see the halo effect around you because your body's not wasting time and energy on the things that it's not serving them. And then all of a sudden
Yeah.
you can do more. I mean, I'm doing way more than I
Yeah.
ever was before,
So
and yet I'm not as near as depleted.
Yeah, it's almost paradoxical, but it's true. I mean, it's science.
Hmm.
It's pretty amazing. I think once people realize that and they start applying it and experiencing it for themselves, then it just kind of starts to
Yeah,
take root, which is it's really
you feel the
amazing.
difference.
Yeah. So this is True Voice Unfiltered. So I have to ask you, Jody, what does it mean to live in true voice and integrity as a founder? You're a mother, you're a woman in wellness, uh, especially in an industry, and I hear this, it often rewards performance over presence. I mean, there's good and bad with social media. So when when I say performance, I'm thinking of, there's just again so many influencers out there. And so that's my long-winded way of asking you this question. I hope that it makes sense.
Well, and I think it just kind of comes back to put a bow on what we talked about, which is really truly investing in presence and
Yes.
investing in your wellness journey so that you can impact the people around you. Because better leaders make for better humans, make for a better world. Neurons mirror neurons, there's science to support it. And when you're doing that, then your team starts to do that. They go home in a place of trust and confidence and high performance. And then that's what gets talked about at the dinner table. That impacts their parenting, that impacts their partnerships. And you can just see the ripple effect of how that happens, where you flip the coin when you're creating a toxic fight or flight work environment. That nervous system that's being beat up gets sent home. And then imagine what's happening at home. And so I really find like, in that personal development to be able to have that halo effect.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah, definitely I think it starts with the self and like you said, it ripples out the family and community, state, and then out into the world. Um, it's pretty amazing. So, Jody, where can people find these products and kind of give us an overview too of some of your products and some of the problems that people can resolve with them? Just even if you could give us like an overview of that.
Absolutely.
So-
Greengoo.com and Amazon is where you're gonna find most everything. And first of all, throw away everything in your first aid cabinet, and
All right.
you could pretty much just start with the first aid bundle, and it's gonna cover all bases. So it's gonna include your, Green Goo First Aid, which is not just a wound care product, topical antiseptic, it is also your first aid kit on the go. So it is cut scrapes, bug bites, bee stings, poison ivy, cold sores, chafing, ingrown
Amazing.
toenails, chapped lips. And what you find is you'll have it with you everywhere you go. It's your little Swiss Army knife, and it's safe for your kiddos. It takes the sting and the itch out. It slows down the bleeding. You can put it on your pets. Wonderful for hot spots, and it takes the itch out for the critters, which is the one thing that like really irritates dogs. And there's no great over the counter solutions for them. Then there's the dry skin formula in that bundle, which is the eczema psoriasis formula that John Hopkins has been using in their scleroderma and skin condition department. And it is wonderful for building that skin barrier and helping with dry patches, chronic dry skin, and reducing that inflammation. Very calming. And there's very strategically herbs in there that are intended to calm the nervous system in conjunction with addressing the flare up. And then there's the pain relief, which is your topical analgesic. And again, I love this. I incorporate it into my Sunday sanctuary because I really like the way it feels. Even tonight, I'm like, tonight might be a butter up head to toe just to kind of calm the system, and you sleep
Yeah.
really well when you do that. And then the skin repair, which is, I'll call it your health and beauty Swiss Army knife, meaning that it was originally designed to be like a burn and scar after sun skincare solution, like a Moderna. However, we've really identified it's a great health and beauty solution. And you can replace your lotion with it and your night cream. So I put this on my face
Wow.
every night before I go to bed, and I'll do it about head to toe twice per week as well. What you'll find is the more you're nourishing their skin, the less you need to do it. So the way you put lotion on and like 20 minutes later you're dry again. When
Yeah.
you use Green Goo, you really start out of the gate using it a lot, and then you'll find you can kind of slow it down. Someone joked that it was the most anti-capitalistic product because the more you use it, the less you need it. And but that's what's great because you're building that skin
Yeah.
barrier and really like arming those cells, and they're ready to be in an optimal state.
I love it. I'm ready to go place my order now as soon as we finish this interview. I know a few people in my life who've got birthdays coming up. I mean, what a great gift.
I
Yeah,
love giving
pretty
these
amazing.
products as gifts, like, and it's the gift of wellness, it's things that, like,
Yeah.
really matter, and it changes their lives. I had
That's
a really fun, interview a couple weeks ago, and she was like, "Oh my goodness," she had not made the connection, she was like, "I used to get Green Goo in my stocking every year from one of her grandparents," and I was like,
Oh my
"I love
gosh.
that," and she's clear across the country, it was fun.
That is amazing. Yeah, that is fun. Well, I'm so excited that you joined me today, Jody. Is there anything else you want the audience to know before we sign off? And also, I'm going to put everything in the show description, but let everyone know where they can follow you online and all that good stuff.
Find me at Jodi A. Scott on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out to me directly. I can happily coordinate and curate a skincare solution for you. And also, if you have any questions around leadership, personal development, neuropsych hacks to just kind of calm your nervous system, I'm here and available.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Jody. I learned a lot, and I'm really excited about trying these products.
Thank you.
Right. Take care.
Hi, I'm Dr. Liz. I just want to tell you how amazing and easy it was to work with Daria on my book. You see, I've had a book for a while, been sitting on my desk, sitting on my computer. Maybe you might be able to relate to that. And I didn't know what to do, how to take it to the next step, how to make it look polished and edited and easy and useful for my readers. Met with Daria. We had some great conversations. She learned my voice, my goal, my style, and she was able to edit and give me feedback on how to make my message clearer, more focused, polished, and it worked. I have a book. In fact, I have a book and a workbook that she's edited for me and guided me along the pathway. So if you're maybe a little bit like me, that you have a book or you have an idea and you haven't known where to take it, how to take it to the next stage, reach out to Daria. She's a game changer and she's really easy to work with and takes great pride in her work as well. So join me in the published author arena. Reach out to Daria. I'm Dr. Liz.
Hi, everyone. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of True Voice Unfiltered. And if you're a busy professional who wants to leverage the power of a book, blogs, or other content as evergreen brand assets that help you reach your ideal audience, attract more clients, and expand your brand and influence, I welcome you to schedule your free 30-minute discovery call with me. At True Voice Writing Services, I offer professional storytelling in your authentic voice. And in this age of AI, authenticity is more important than ever. I have ghostwritten over a dozen books, edited many, many more, have written SEO optimized blogs for the past 10 years, and I know how to project your voice, infuse your voice in all content, set you up as the authority and trusted guide in your field, and help you enjoy greater success with personalized content that speaks to your audience. So go ahead and contact me at truevoicewritingservices.com. You can click on this contact button. Reach out to me today. Tell me your story over a virtual cup of coffee. I just ask you to complete this little mini questionnaire, I'll call it. Just a few questions to help me understand a little bit more about you and your business and what your goals are with your content, whether it's books, blogs, press releases, lead magnets, email sequences. I offer a variety of writing services, and I certainly have experience ghostwriting full-length books that my clients use to leverage other things, such as an online course, mastermind groups, one-on-one coaching, workbooks, and other CTAs, which are calls to action. So I invite you to visit me at truevoicewritingservices.com, click on the contact page, reach out to me today. I help purpose-driven professionals transform ideas and expertise into compelling content that builds authority, nurtures trust, and inspires action. With decades of experience ghostwriting books and writing strategic content across multiple industries, I apply clarity, creativity, precision, and your unique brand to every project. Your book is your brand, and I look forward to helping you express yourself through the written word. Contact me at truevoicewritingservices.com, and let's schedule your complimentary 30-minute discovery call today. Thanks for listening.